ABC Kinderteach presents A Day for Remembering, inspired by the true events of the first Memorial Day. Written by Leah Henderson, illustrated by Floyd Cooper. Dark and sad will be the hour to this nation when it forgets to pay grateful homage or showing respect to its greatest benefactors, or the people that helped, the loyal soldiers who imperiled or put themselves in danger, all for country and freedom. Written by Frederick Douglass, 1871, Decoration Day speech, Arlington National Cemetery, Virginia. So in this little section here, they really are saying we should show respect for the people, or so the soldiers who helped make the United States of America what it is. In 1861, the United States of America was torn apart by a civil war, which means that the two parts of the country were fighting against each other, with the northern states, the Union, fighting the southern states, the Confederacy. The North wanted to keep the country intact or together, both North and South, and to ensure or make sure that all people were equal by abolishing or getting rid of slavery. The South did not agree, and these states sought or wanted to establish themselves or set themselves up as their own country separate from the North, the Confederate States of America. They also sought to keep slavery. The war was fought for 4 years until 1865, when the Confederacy surrendered or decided not to fight anymore to the Union. The United States remained united and slavery was abolished. Memorial Day, originally at the beginning called Decoration Day, was established to honor those who gave their lives while fighting in the Civil War. The holiday has since evolved to commemorate or to show respect to all American military personnel. And military personnel are the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, the Marines, the Coast Guard, who have died in any and all wars. This is a story of what many consider or believe to be the first Memorial Day celebration or party to remember an important thing. 9 days in a row, Papa up early and gone again. I still can't go with him, though. He said, "Eli, school's where you need to be. Reading and counting." But I am counting right here, day 9. So he's saying, yes, I'm counting the days that you're gone. Not following after Papa is harder than holding a hot potato in my hands, which is pretty hard. He said important work has to be done, man's work. I rose on my toes then, pushing out my chin, stretching as tall as my 10-year-old self could, but it made no difference. So he was pretending or trying to be taller than he really was so he could go with his Papa, but it didn't work. I imagine him out there standing up to folks who spit in our faces. That was a bad thing to do, right? Call us names, another bad thing to do. Or try to run us out our home, or trying to kick them out of their houses. Mad because we aren't enslaved or aren't slaves anymore. Or I think of him putting out fires and keeping order with the 21st Colored Infantry. And those were people of color that were not allowed to fight beside white people in the army. And this is a long time ago. Union, for the most part people living in the colder parts of the United States. Soldiers brown like us who marched up Meeting Street holding their heads high in victory because they'd won something, especially the ones who'd been enslaved here in Charleston. They were some of the first to come when the mayor surrendered the city to the Union. No use begging to follow Papa, though. Mama will only fuss or get upset about. Eli, you now have the hard-earned right, getting to do something after a lot of hard work, to learn, and it's what's going to get you beyond or give you a better life. Masters locked away learning. The people who used to own them wouldn't let them learn new things. 'Cause knowledge is its own freedom, which means learning things gives you chances to do more things and have more freedoms. You're going to school and no more words are getting spilt about it. Getting spilt about it just means she's not going to talk about it anymore. She said what she's going to say and that's it. Before the war, worry never let my insides alone, which means she always felt sick with worrying. Always scared that Mama or Papa would get sold away. And this means that one slave owner may sell slaves to another slave owner, and they sometimes separate the moms and dads from their kids. Never to come back home, but today Papa comes home as night covers the sky, nighttime. Almost looking worse than after toiling or working hard in master's fields, but those days in the fields are over. Papa said, unlike some, we aren't going back because we aren't enslaved or slaves no more. We were digging and building and painting, he says after supper. Digging, building, painting. But Papa isn't giving no more answers. Wake up, Eli. Today you're coming with me. Day 10, I spring out of bed like beans in a skillet, which means he jumps out quickly, and jump into my breeches or pants. Something important must be happening if Papa is letting me miss even 1 second of school, my hard-earned right, and Mama isn't putting up no fuss. With molasses-smeared cornbread, and it's a brown sugary syrup that's spread on bread made of corn, sliding down my throat, I race to catch Papa, his long strides or stretched out steps are met by others as more men join us, their boots crunching against pebbles on the hard road. My new schooling helps me count 28 men in all, shoulders, back, chests out. They stomp along, ready to do the real important business Papa talks about. Business he thinks I'm old enough to do now too. You need to see the work we's doing before it's all done, he says. We strut, or walk in a proud way, through the entrance at the Planters Racecourse where white folks used to watch mighty or great horses run before the war. But it isn't a racecourse no more. For a while, the Confederates, the people living in the warm part of the USA who are fighting against the Union, made it a jail. Mama and ladies from church used to sneak food to the Union soldiers held prisoner there, skinny and sickly, or feeling sick and unwell. Those men hardly had more clothes than the most lonesome slave, which means they had almost no clothes. A newspaper man said those poor souls had no covering but the sky. This means they were almost like without clothes. And that they were heartsick, feeling very sad, homesick, sick in body, which means they were physically sick, sick in life, really sad. All because they fought against slavery and our God-given right to be free. So, over the evening paper, Mama had learned to read in secret while enslaved, while being a slave. She promised, we'll share every morsel or every piece of food we got till we got no more. But the living are gone now, and the dead lie by our feet. Without a word, Papa and the other men get to digging, hammering, and cutting wood. Papa points to the fence where some of my schoolmates, or people from his class, have joined their papas too. Help with the whitewashing, Eli. And whitewashing is painting with watery white paint. I drag my feet, though, wanting to stay by Papa's side, but he rushes around doing more work in a minute than he'd done in 3 hours on Master's land. He's really being busy. An old usher, or someone who helps you find your seat, from our church pushes a painting brush in my hand, and I get to working too. As the sun beats our backs, the men sing in heavy, deep voices that rattle the dirt. Nobody knows the trouble I've seen. Nobody knows my sorrow or sadness. When the sun starts slipping behind the trees, they raise an arch. And an arch looks like this. Tired pinches my shoulders, which means his shoulders feel tired, and my palms blaze, which means his hands are sore from working, crisscrossed with tiny scrapes from a day's hard toil, or working hard all day. But I don't pay the sting or ache no mind. We've done good work for the soldiers who lost their lives for our freedom. The next morning before the rooster's first gawks, I leap up, but I'm not going to school again today. None of us colored children are. The day is that important. My best mended pants and cleanest shirt wait on my blanket. Mama gathers up her basket full of Mayflower bundles. Papa straightens his hat, and we leave our yard just as our neighbors leave theirs. Black faces, more than I've ever seen together, fill the streets with bouquets. And this is what a bouquet looks like. Crosses and wreaths. I'm not sure a flower is left unpicked in Charleston. My schoolmates carry roses and hawthorns look like this. But since I'm fastest at learning my numbers and letters, I get to carry the flag right out in front. I stomp, knees high, like the important colored soldiers did up Meeting Street. Mama strides in her best calico dress, and that's what calico dress looks like, behind us with the women, grinning, proud. I can't see Papa, but I know he is somewhere in the quilt of black, brown, and white faces. In line stretching longer than a mile, we cross onto the old racecourse, singing with our fullest hearts. John Brown's body lies a-mouldering in the grave, but his soul goes marching on. And lies a-mouldering just means it's slowly falling apart. Although we sing about John Brown, we are really singing for all the buried Union soldiers. And martyrs here are people willing to give up something very important for what they believe in. After the last word is sung, quiet comes, which means it becomes quiet. Our feet shushing, walking quietly. Across the sandy soil, we circle the fresh dirt mounds with sweet-smelling petals of rose, lilac, and jasmine. And this is what jasmine looks like. Swirling to the ground. Thousands of hands sprinkle thousands of spring blossoms. The graves become a bed of petals and tears. So they're putting petals down, but they also have tears in their eyes because they're sad for all the people that have died fighting in the war. The flag flaps in the breeze when I hand it off, as if waving goodbye to the Union soldiers finally at peace. Pastors preach sacrifice, giving up something that is very important to you. Abolitionists, people who believe something should be stopped, like slavery, proclaim freedom, and officers bay, army bosses telling us in a bossy way, at us to remember. Even though we are sad, we are celebrating too. My heart rests easy now, which means he doesn't worry as much. Me, Mama, and Papa can't never be sold away no more, which there means that they're no longer slaves and can be sold away. And I'm getting my schooling its own freedom. Like Mama said, so my insides feel all good. He's happy. While breaking bread or eating together, we listen to more speeches about the martyrs, or the people that sacrificed things, of the race course and freedom. Blurry eyes in which you have tears in them. Praise a Union brigade, a smaller group of the army, marching round the pond of blossoms. There's lots of head nodding and mm-hms as families gather round the grandstand, remembering, shedding tears, and giving thanks above. The flag never stops waving, but all my old slave time worries fly away. He doesn't worry about the things he worried about when he was a slave. And as the moon joins in, we leave the race course with empty hands and near bursting hearts, because they're just filled with so much emotion, like happiness, sadness, all mixed together. Hoping those Union soldiers, hugged by Charleston's sweetest blooms or flowers, know we will never forget what they've given of themselves for the priceless gift of our liberty or freedom. A few years ago, the author stumbled across this picture of over 200 black children getting ready for what looked like a parade, actually a Decoration Day parade. And Decoration Day is just the old name for Memorial Day. And although there's about 12 or so places that say they had the first decoration or Memorial Day, one of the places that claim it is in Charleston, South Carolina, where this picture was taken. And so in this parade, about 10,000 most newly freed slaves, led by almost 3,000 black children, walked in this parade. Every day on Memorial Day, originally known as Decoration Day, we remember the men and women in the armed forces who died in service to our country, but many may be unaware of its beginnings. Regardless if you believe, as I do, that this Charleston event was the first community-led Decoration Day, it is important to consider the significance of what is happening here, in that the soldiers who lost their lives fighting for freedom. Above all else, that May Day was a gathering to honor and to remember those who, as Lincoln said in his Gettysburg Address, gave the last full measure of devotion, which means they gave their lives. And we should too remember their sacrifice and a community's show of thanks.